we're continuing to see the crypto market push higher and higher, which is obviously a very, very good thing to see. We're seeing alts actually have a lot more success than realistically kind of what I was expecting, at least over the next kind of month or two. So I think we're kind of a little bit ahead of what I was at least expecting, which is of course always a very welcome sign. We are starting to see ICP also establish what seems to be some more stable footing to continue, hopefully, move to the upside. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today. We are, if we're being completely realistic, we are still seeing ICP continue to lag some of the rest of the altcoins. We're going to be going over and taking a look at kind of the best in class or the ones kind of leading the market right now. But overall, I think things are starting to look better for ICP. And as we all know, usually ICP can really just kind of start running out of nowhere. And so that could be happening at any point here fairly soon. I think the chart is starting to look a lot better. So we are going to be taking a look at that. Before we do that, though, I did just want to take a quick look into the crypto bubbles. We can see yet another green day. It was getting a little bit red yesterday. We saw kind of a bit of a momentary pullback, but if you do look at the week, very, very green week here. I mean, things going crazy all over the place. Sui done absolutely incredibly. Stacks done very, very well. Trump coin done very well. A lot of news pushing this one in particular. We can see things like IMX and Helium and Polygon, some of these that have realistically been struggling a little bit. They're doing quite well. Caspa, Injective, Tau, Fetch. You can see some of these down here. And then we do also have some memes like Bonk and Fartcoin doing also very, very well. So lots of interesting things happening. We can see ICP up less than 10% on the week. So compared to some of the other numbers we're seeing, not particularly too inspiring. And then if we do look at the day, we can see also green, only up 1.9% though. So again, still kind of lagging a little bit. I think a lot of what we have been seeing come back are some of these kind of best in class layer ones, Sui mainly being kind of chief among them. Stacks has done particularly well. It does seem like building on Bitcoin is still a narrative that at least carries some weight. We can also see some of these other DPIN projects like H&T doing quite well. And then of course, meme coins kind of all around have done incredibly well. Then we were of course seeing, RWA and AI, some of these others actually having a little bit of success here as well. So overall, the market is looking nice. However, going back to ICP, we can starting to see a little bit of some good stuff from a technical perspective. So let's actually pull this chart up. Oops, no, let's not do that. Let's pull this chart up here, full screen, and we can kind of start to see a little bit of what we're looking at. So we are looking at the daily. Now, I'm going to actually zoom this out and we're going to kind of look from a very, very long-term perspective, and then we'll zoom in a little bit from there. So long-term, we can see actually dipping below prices that we hadn't really seen prior to 2020, or I guess after 2023, the end of 2023, I should say. Really successful 2024, I would say, for ICP. Obviously having a pretty decent pullback kind of after that January to April run, and then also another even stronger pullback after that November to December type run. We did not actually see us break a higher high in 2024. The highest we got in 2024 was that kind of March-April timeframe, and here we actually have been seeing some pretty good struggle, or some, I guess, bad if you're an ICP supporter, but some pretty rough price action on the ICP chart. So this was kind of like that major structural support here at this like $5 range. We are back above it. So now if we'll go back, we'll zoom in a little bit and we can see kind of what we're seeing on a shorter time frame. I guess before we go too far, and we can see that we were following kind of a similar, I would say more steep and more dramatic descending trend line like we were seeing out of Bitcoin, but we have actually broken out of that. We actually broke over it, kind of retested it over the course of about 4 days or so, and then we have actually departed from that, indicating that we have broken across this descending trend line. We also were seeing a little bit of that wedge coming in here too. So we did actually break out of this wedge. Again, not the explosive break that I think a lot of us would have liked to have seen, but it is a break nonetheless. We did not get down here to this like $2.85 range, testing another like structural low. We did just kind of barely creep below this really important level of about that $5 range. We have, as you can see, come back above. So we bounced off of this descending trend line, came back above this level of support here, and now we actually, we retested it once, I guess, twice. We saw that that was actually a really, really strong wick coming back up. And now we are here on a third time. Looks like being held up by this support. So it does look like this $5 support is back in full effect, which is good to see. You can see if we do look at the Bollinger Bands, we are actually squeezing relatively tight. So we could see a period of volatility coming for ICP. I think this could make sense, right? I mean, ICP has really been relatively quiet compared to what we've seen out of a lot of the rest of the market. And so the fact that we are kind of consolidating here and could be ready for another breakout, I do think makes sense. Now, of course, I'm hoping that we see it to the upside, but we never know for sure when these Bollinger Bands start to squeeze. It really could go either way. Now, again, given the type of market that we're in, I would say it's probably slightly biased that we're going to be going to the upside rather than the downside. But of course, all of you are aware of the market that we're sitting in. Things can change on a dime. So don't ever take anything for granted, and definitely don't be doing anything that would be overexposing yourself. That would be a very difficult mistake to make. If we do look at RSI, we can see we are at about neutral with RSI. So overall, the chart looking in a pretty decent position. We can technically see here that we have made a higher low here, and we have only just barely made a higher high on kind of this smaller time frame. So it does look like structurally the ICP chart is starting to change here, and we might be heading back up into an uptrend. So this is really, really good news. This is something that we're starting to see with a lot of the crypto coins in the market. We're starting to see that structural change from kind of, lower highs, lower lows to higher highs, higher lows. So this is very, very good, particularly if you're looking to be trading longs. Of course, this type of structure is very good if you're looking to be trading shorts. So ICP overall, I would say from a technical perspective, in a decent spot. Again, lagging behind a lot of the other top performers like we have seen, but still doing relatively well. As you can see here, I do actually trade on BTCC. If you are interested, I do have that link in the description below. If you do use my link, you will get 10% free on your first time deposit bonuses, which is really, really nice. Basically, I've yet to meet somebody who does not like free money. They do also do $10,000 in deposit bonuses as well, which is another really, really great option. You can see ICP is here trading. I also do have some positions open. You can see almost 200% on SUI. This one's done really, really well. I actually took profit on most of these, closing about half, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, after we saw some of these pumps. And now we're of course continuing to let things run. If things continue to run, then of course I will be continuing to lock more profits as we move along. But right now, just kind of letting these ride. If you are interested in trading, like I said, I do have all those links in the description below. Also, I do have the links to FIMEX and WEEX. WEEX does about 20 to 30,000 in trading bonuses, and FIMEX does about $4,800, but they have that really, really awesome grid trading bot, which I love grid trading bots, which is why I do continue to work with FIMEX. I think they're really great. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at from a trading perspective. Moving on, I did want to talk a little bit about some really key upcoming things that we are seeing or have already seen very, very recently. We've got some new updates that I want to go over today. The first one, though, is we can see we only have 2 unlocks left. We have one coming up on May 11th, which is 2.37 million ICP being unlocked. And then on June 11th, we have another and the final 2.37 million ICP being unlocked. So we can see here about $12-ish million each getting unlocked here. These are the last 2 unlocks, and then ICP is technically fully diluted. Now, of course, ICP does have the tokenomics where we can continue to see more and more ICP actually being pumped into the total supply, because they do have that kind of mint burn type of mechanism. The minting is essentially happening for the stakers. So if you do stake your ICP, there you may have, if you're familiar with ICP, you may be familiar with the 8-year gang, all that type of stuff. You can stake your ICP for up to 8 years, and then you do get essentially rewarded according to your stake percentage, your length of time being staked, all that type of good stuff. But we also do have the burn side of things, which happens with the cycle burn rate. Now, the best way to check this type of thing is through the ICP dashboard. And this is the new update that I have for you today. We can see that they have a new ICP dashboard. I think it looks really nice. It looks super clean. There is one thing that I'm very sad about that we'll get to here in a second. But overall, I think it looks pretty nice. We can see, obviously, they've got the nodes, the subnets, and the node providers with this kind of cool little spinny globe that they've got down here. I think that's cool. We can also see the blocks counting up. We can see the blocks per second. We can see transactions per second. We got the 90-day peak here, the ETH equivalent transactions, which I think is pretty cool. We've got the carbon footprint, which it seems that they've kind of maybe emphasized a little bit in this new format, kind of compared to what they've seen prior. We've got these SNS DAOs as well, so they're kind of emphasizing this more than what they had in the past. Ecosystem projects are kind of elevating too, which I think all of this is good. Canister smart contracts, they have kind of deprioritized a little bit. I think this is okay. I think this is a really good like metric and stat to track, but I think a lot of people who are looking to learn more about ICP maybe don't necessarily care so much about canister contracts. They're more caring about transactions per second. What does this look like for ETH equivalent? What are the DAOs on ICP? What are the ecosystem projects? What are the chain key tokens? This is another thing that they're kind of emphasizing a little bit more, which I think is good. We can see tokenomics here, total supply, circulating supply, TVL, all this type of stuff. That is all good in my mind. The carbon footprint, I think, is good and it matters to some people. I don't think that this really should have been elevated to the point that we're seeing it here. I would have much rather seen the tokenomics or potentially even the ecosystem projects. That to me, I would think is probably the most important thing on the page after these transactions per second, things like that. I think the transactions per second is very, very important because a lot of people don't understand just how much volume the Internet Computer Protocol is doing. So I think it is cool that they have that as well there. The one thing that I am very, very sad about is we don't really have any sort of direct way to track cycle burn rate, which makes me very sad. The cycle burn rate to me is probably the most important metric that ICP has. Of course, people who may not be super familiar with ICP might not quite understand why it's so important, but to me, that is the most important metric. And so the fact that they've effectively hidden it does make me feel really bad. There are a couple other things that we're going to be going over here in a second where you can kind of still get a sense of the health, I guess I should say, of the burning side of the network. So we will be talking about that. But as we can see here, we'll round out the dashboard. We can see latest news. Also, it's fairly useful, I guess, as it talks about ICP. As we can see, this does give you, at least in my mind, a general flavor of kind of how the Internet Computer Protocol is looking to kind of brand themselves. We can see here AI, self-writing internet, AI basically, self-writing. I mean, they're very, very, very honed in on AI, self-writing internet. They have some here now and again on like kind of cybersecurity, some of that type of thing. And then we can also see the NNS proposals. NNS proposals, I think, useful, but again, not particularly useful for people who are looking to learn more about the Internet Computer Protocol. So I do think that this is probably properly placed kind of towards the bottom here. Now, I did want to talk to you a little bit about the burn rate because, as we mentioned, we have not seen much there. We can see that they do have the voting rewards function, and we can see the kind of the curve that this is moving down, and then we can also see total ICP burned. So we can't really see the cycles here, unfortunately. Cycles itself, right? But we can see kind of over time. This is over like all time basically. We can see what is actually happening here for like how the ICP is getting burned. We can see the vast majority here is cycle and proposal fees, and then transaction fees are going to be a smaller piece to that. But overall, like I said, we can't actually see directly cycles, at least kind of from like I haven't spent too much time, but at least from what I've been able to tell, kind of messing around with this, with the ICP dashboard, cycles has definitely been deprioritized. I guess I kind of understand why they did that. That's something that, again, is going to be very, very foreign to anybody who's not kind of like ICP native. I just wish that there was a spot where we could kind of find that still a little bit, but I guess the ICP burned is like an approximate way for us to kind of measure that overall. So overall, I think it's a very good update to the dashboard. I think it's interesting. I think they're trying to kind of spruce up their brand a little bit. I think recently the shortcomings that they have had in marketing are very much coming to bear. And so I think they're trying to kind of maybe shine a new light on the Internet Computer and try and rebrand themselves and maybe do kind of like a relaunch in a sort of type of way. So anyway, the last thing that I want to go over today though is talking about a tweet from Dominic. As we can see, caffeine, AI, self-writing internet, this is their kind of like, they're putting all the chips on the table for this narrative. We can see here caffeine eating up all my tweeting time, but progressing well. Why the effort? It's the first real self-writing apps platform. It's the first time Web3 actually betters Web2 technology. It's the first time 99% degens will understand ICP. On-chain is the new online/real, a self-writing internet, and AI equals people power. So this is really kind of what they're pushing very, very hard, is they're pushing the self-writing internet, they're pushing AI, they're pushing the, everything on-chain. I understand why they're doing it, and I think it makes sense, and that's ultimately why I am very bullish on ICP. But so far, it's been a little bit of a tough sell, and we haven't really seen much of that adoption come over. But I do think, I talk about this a lot in the comment section for various people who are asking, but I do think that this is going to be something that's very much like a slowly then all at once type of situation. So that's very much what I'm looking forward to. We'll see kind of how it ends up. But overall, that's what I've got today for the ICP update. If you are interested in kind of taking your crypto and analysis, fundamental analysis, trading, all that type of stuff to the next level, I am opening up a wait list for a potential kind of like mentorship program. If any of you are interested, just sign up. There's no commitment, there's no anything. I'm just trying to gauge interest to see if this is something people are even interested in. If you aren't, no worries at all. Obviously, I'm still going to be making YouTube videos. I'm still going to be doing all this type of stuff. It's just something that I was considering that, that people might potentially find value in. And so if you do, like I said, just go ahead, get signed up. No commitment, no anything like that. But overall, I'd love to hear from you as well in the comment section. I read and respond to all of the comments. So if you have anything that you want me to see, you have any questions for me, comments, all that type of stuff. A lot of you do provide really, really awesome insight. So I do very much appreciate that. Also, if you did find the value in this video useful, please do like and subscribe. It really, really does help me out. Helps get me pushed a little bit further into the YouTube algorithm, continue to grow, all that type of good stuff. So if you did find it valuable, it really, really does help me out. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.